rather than something you are going to fall towards. Your enemy should be something above you. It shouldn't be, you know, that guy down there that's trying to pull me down. Yeah, he's whatever. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I just got to ignore him because he's trying to pull me down. He's not pushing me to be better. But
Yeah.
that guy above me, I can make him my enemy and strive to be better than him.
Right, and I think we want to make clear, right, is that that doesn't come out of the sense of jealousy. We talk about it all the time. Jealousy is the ugliest human emotion. There's nothing productive out of being jealous from somebody's situation, either that they have more than me, that they get favored, et cetera, et cetera. That's a distraction. That's a waste of time. But what I can do is I can see that higher position. I can see, the fact that they may have a better social standing. They may, get the girl. They may get Welcome back to the Three Eyes Podcast. This is Off the Bench with Chase Kelly and Lance Lambert. Chaser, we're back at it. And this is kind of a special episode here. We're in the new house, first off. And second off, today's topic was voted on by my students, by my kids, because they have now officially found our podcast.
Yeah, so definitely had some experience, especially today. They found more of our podcast today and some of the old videos we'd recorded. So that got a little interesting today as well.
Yeah, and you know what? There's probably some mixed feelings there about that, but I think, I was working through that in my mind, and we're doing a project now in class about kind of leading my own independent research, and I always encourage them to kind of shoot big, especially when they're creating a public product, and it's kind of we get in our own way a little bit. I do, especially because I don't see myself as some guy with a bunch of wisdom that we should be putting it out there or whatever. But I guess it's a little bit taboo. But then I thought, if I had any other profession in the world, would it be kind of frowned upon to be talking about what we're talking about? And I think this is, if I'm going to preach to our kids that you got to shoot big and not settle for anything less than what's best of yourself, then I've got to do that myself in order to not be, a hypocrite.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the whole idea behind it. I mean, shooting big is the biggest idea ever because go back to our goal talks. I mean, you don't want a goal you can achieve tomorrow. That's the biggest part of life, I think. Something to strive for.
And this definitely pushes us out of our comfort zone because we're not necessarily guys that are, up and talking and on social media a ton and things of that nature. And so I think this is a great thing that I've always wanted to do. And now we're starting to take those steps to achieve those goals as we start to work on our website and, our videos and things of that nature. Just trying to build that brand and that ideology behind intention, intensity, and iteration.
It's all kind of coming together now, and it's just a slow moving process and just kind of letting it go on its own path.
Yeah, absolutely. And so today's topic, let's go ahead and get into it while we're at it here. Because it kind of goes into, being an enemy of yourself. But today's topic is how to choose your enemies wisely. And what we want to fully understand here is, one, what is an enemy? And two, why do people waste their time having enemies that are destructive rather than positive? I think, our society defines an enemy as somebody who is something that we don't like, it's a distraction from my true purpose and what I'm about as a person. And so, first off, how can we define enemies? And instead of using it as a negative distraction where I'm spending time gossiping, worrying about what they're doing, et cetera, how do we define an enemy as in a space that could be productive for ourselves?
So looking into this, did a little bit of my own research because I'm a huge Aurelius guy. And Aurelius defines enemies and having a way that bring out the worst in us and have a way to make us act and think in mean ways or mimic behaviors at a lower level than we can accomplish. So I think the best way to define enemies into a category to make it more productive is something you are trying to be better than, rather than something you are going to fall towards. Your enemy should be something above you. It shouldn't be, you know, that guy down there that's trying to pull me down. Yeah, he's whatever. I mean, I don't like the guy, but I just got to ignore him because he's trying to pull me down. He's not pushing me to be better. But
Yeah.
that guy above me, I can make him my enemy and strive to be better than him.
Right, and I think we want to make clear, right, is that that doesn't come out of the sense of jealousy. We talk about it all the time. Jealousy is the ugliest human emotion. There's nothing productive out of being jealous from somebody's situation, either that they have more than me, that they get favored, et cetera, et cetera. That's a distraction. That's a waste of time. But what I can do is I can see that higher position. I can see, the fact that they may have a better social standing. They may, get the girl. They may get the promotion. They may be my boss, whatever it may be. And I can want that higher standing and in turn it into motivation for me to obtain a higher standing for myself. Not that they're being hurt in the process. We don't want to tear the other people down. That's a distraction. That also makes me a horrible person, right? We can't focus on them. I have to focus on my purpose, my path, and I can use them as a sense of motivation, as a sense of competition, in order to achieve where I want to go, right? And I think that's one thing that our society gets wrong, is that we want to be jealous, or we want to run away from that competition, where if we would just stay and use that as motivation to work harder, we would be much better off and have more purpose, have true purpose, and have more fulfillment, because nothing good in our lives ever comes easy. Through something where, I left for a better situation, or et cetera, et cetera. It's always through the obstacle. It's always through the adversity where we find out who we truly are. And I think that's something to really clear up. One thing that you also said, Chaser, is, we want to be something, we want to be better than something, right? It doesn't always have to be a person either, right? And I think that's extremely important to understand, is that it doesn't have to be outside of the body, or it can be an object. It can be a record. It can be a job, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily, oh buddy, my neighbor's got a better looking lawn than me, right? And so now I'm jealous, or he's my enemy, or whatever it may be. Something as simple as that. It can be an object. It can be a record. It can be a promotion, et cetera, et cetera.
And I think that's where you really dance on that fine line between enemy and jealousy. I think taking it as in that entire persona of that person. That person is my enemy. That is jealousy. Because that person isn't your enemy. What they have is your enemy. I think really when you look at it, the more you put it on that person, they can't control how they got there in life and how you're below them or you're above them or anything like that. They cannot control anything but what they can control. And really, it doesn't matter to them where you are if they are above you. Because, yes, they might want to help you out in the future, but they can't do anything. It's all up to you. And that's where you dance on that fine line of, is my enemy a physical being, or is it an idea? I think an enemy is more towards the ideological standpoint than it is, hey, Jim next door has a better yard than me. Like, yeah.
It has to be, right? That's what people don't understand. Our society is so quick, so willing to point the finger, right? And we see this in our young people all the time, is that I get a bad grade, it's because my teacher's fault. It's the teacher's enemy. I don't play sports, or I don't start, it's my coach's fault. Coach is my enemy. Okay? I don't get the promotion, it's my boss's fault. Right? I don't perform the way that I am expected to within my job. It's not my fault. It's my partner's fault on the project, or it's my boss's fault. They're inept. It's never, I always try to find enemies. That's the problem with most people today, is that there's a lack of accountability where we're creating these enemies for no reason. And when we do that, the problem with doing that and pointing the finger and creating enemies for other people is that then I fail, or I give up the power to control my own life. By creating enemies, by pointing the finger, I then admit that other person not only controls my emotions, my responses, the quality of work that I produce, but they control my entire life, right? They control my mind, my actions, etc. And that's what we want to avoid. We don't want other people to be able to control the quality of life that I produce for myself.
And I know we were talking about enemies here, but this is also going into ownership. I don't know how much our listeners have really paid attention. We always come back to Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Jocko, once again, ex-Navy SEAL, one of the baddest guys around. I actually got lucky and got to meet him in person this year. He's a cool guy. But yeah, he stresses about controlling every situation you're in life, no matter what, and taking control of what you can control physically. If you got a bad grade, you understand you did that work, you did a bad grade. Well, you get a bad grade because you didn't fulfill the need that your teacher expected of you. So next time, make them expect more of you by doing more than what they expected. Or I didn't get the promotion at work. It's because I didn't have the right fulfillment. So next time, I'm going to own up and do everything possible to go above and beyond what that person that got the promotion did, so that they see that they have to give me that promotion because I am taking ownership of my situation and my responsibility. And that's where this is one of my favorite talks about enemies. Is your biggest enemy is yourself. I think that your biggest enemy is you right now in the present, because you're the one that controls everything about what you do, how you respond, how you react, what you say, what you do. Do I want to lay in bed, or do I want to get up and do my homework? Do I want to go play video games, or am I going to write my paper? You are the one that's making those decisions, not your enemy, because you are your enemy.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to understand. We want to talk about, it's important to have confidence, right? It's important to have confidence, important to have great self-esteem, but there's nothing wrong with looking at myself 2-3 years in the past and saying, I did not like that person, right? If I stay in the same exact spot for 3 years, okay, I would have not accomplished anything in my life. And then therefore, especially as a young person, what value am I adding to not only my life, but to the world around me? And so if I stay put, if I just accept myself and I don't hold myself accountable, if I don't make my past self my enemy, somebody that I can compete with to get better at, like we talk about iteration, 1% better every day, if I don't do that, then I'm going to look back and realize that I've not only not lived life, I've only existed through it, but I never actually took control of it. And I can sit here and create enemies, and I can point the finger outside of my body, outside of me, who I am as a person, or the life that I created. Simply, it's just a distraction. If I take control of who I am, where I'm going, and my purpose, and I take accountability for everything, and I choose to make my past self my enemy and drive myself away from any bad habits that I have right now, then 3 years down the road, I'm going to look back and say, man, I can't believe I was 20 pounds overweight then. How could I ever let myself do that? Or I can't believe I blamed other people for my own problems. Or it's, the list goes down the line and line. And what you find is, if I'm able to truly self-assess and truly understand the room for improvement that I have as a person, then I'm going to be much better off running away or running towards improvement than I am feeding into this this narrative that I have in my head that my past self was just fantastic, right? I mean, We want to have great confidence, self-esteem. That's all good things, but we also want to understand that, you know, there's got to be some parts of yourself in the past that you didn't like, and that's okay for that part to be your enemy, to be your driver, your competition.
My favorite things ever is just to sit back and let people know that this isn't a Marvel movie, this isn't a Disney Channel, nothing like that. Everything you do today will affect you tomorrow. It's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows at the end of it. Life isn't a great, beautiful thing all the time. It can get really dark, it can get really dirty. But if you look at everything you did yesterday and really self analyze, you can pick one or two things you didn't like and change those tomorrow. Maybe I forgot to get up and make my bed one day. I'll fix that tomorrow. I was my enemy yesterday. That took something out of my daily routine that affected my entire day. Maybe I slept in an extra 10 minutes. Wow, I was late. I didn't get up. I didn't have my clothes ready, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I made that decision. I am that enemy of myself today.
Yeah, and I think it's just vital to understand that that's okay, right? Like we don't have to feel sorry about that. Like we can make our past selves, an older version of herself, our competition, and that doesn't mean that that you have low self esteem or low confidence. It actually means that you're willing to self assess and that you have enough self confidence to be truthful to yourself, right? You don't have to lie to yourself to make yourself feel better. This is what I was, this is who I am, and this is where I got to get better. And that's, to create that enemy out of that self, that former self. That's an extremely healthy way of, 2 to 3 years down the road becoming the person that you want to become. Um, One thing that I wanted to pick your brain about, okay, and so we see this all the time in sports. And so we're kind of getting away from the idea of, okay, my former self can be my enemy as well. But, Tom Brady talks about making everything personal. And so I want to get your thoughts on, he talks about every single week, even if there wasn't a great rivalry between the teams. But what made the Patriots dynasty special, what made Tom Brady special, is that he could find little things about the competition, about either himself or the other team, or just the way they maybe even carried themselves, and he could make it extremely personal to where it motivated him to beat them, right? And so, how do we apply that idea to our own lives in real life, I guess?
See, I love this because I would do the same exact thing on the college football field. I'd see a
Yeah,
team
yeah.
come out and they got loose t-shirts on. They don't look all the same. It just ruined me. I was ready to rip somebody's head off because it doesn't look right. They're not my caliber. They don't look like my caliber. So that's the way we did it on the field. But off the field, the way you could do this is really do find that competition. Competition is the healthiest thing around. You can make competition unhealthy, but in the end, competing is healthy. It doesn't need to be everything you strive for in life, but everything you strive for in life should come with some form of competition. The way that you can do this is find that one person who is above you, that person where you want to be, and you want to go above and beyond where they're at. Say you want to start your own company. Well, God, I want to be bigger than Jeff Bezos. I want to be the biggest man in the world. It's not feasible today at all. Hey, it's a 1 in a million chance the guy did what he did. But God, you can make it personal and you can drive everything you have into, okay, this year I'm going to turn over $1,500 in profit, not earnings, just profit. That's a huge year. Next year, let's double it and push it and just push that to be your goal. I think making things personal is making things high achievable goals.
Yeah, and so why do you think people are so scared of competition?
I think it's today's media. I think it's the participation trophy. I think it's the fear of losing.
There it
I
is.
think
That's what I was looking for. And actually, we have, when you talk to young people today, it's that fear of failure, and it's something that you got there with Jeff Bezos is, you know, you may, and what I tell my kids is that you may shoot for the moon and miss, but you're still going to end up with the stars, right? And that's that old saying, that cliche. It's a little cheesy, right? But
It's on a cat poster somewhere, right?
yeah, exactly. But okay, but there's a great message there. We can't allow our fear of failure, our fear of competition, distract us or keep us from playing the game. Okay? And so that enemy, that so-called enemy, we're using it in a healthy manner here, and we're saying, these are my dreams. I don't want to cap myself with a ceiling. Okay. And so in doing so, by not putting a ceiling on myself, I can compete and strive for excellence, strive to be the best at what I want to do in a healthy manner. And that fear of failure is oftentimes where we start to cap ourselves. We start to put a ceiling on ourselves. We start to blame, complain, defend, and then we create these unhealthy, right? We create these unhealthy enemies where we're again distracting ourselves from our purpose.
And I like how you keep iterating, capping yourself. There is no roof. There's no ceiling to this. This is all exponential growth from here. Yes, you're going to have dips. It's look at a stock market graph. It's going to go up. It's going to skyrocket. Then it's going to drop. Then it's going to go up a little bit more at a steady pace. Then you might drop like crazy. But no matter what, you're going to still go up exponentially if you push yourself to go up.
Yeah, and I think that's where it is, right? We have to be able to push ourselves there and not be afraid of failing, and failing publicly too, right? It goes back to the idea of, if I do have enemies that are, I guess, in a unhealthy manner, I'm typically too worried about what they think, right? That's the problem, is that we give, these people that we don't like in a negative way. We're either jealous, or maybe we're a little bit arrogant. Maybe we think they're below us, right? And that, we typically care too much. We give them too much power and care what they think. And then all of a sudden, I've got to be Joe Cool all the time, right? I can't fail publicly, because then, my social standing would be affected. And then all of a sudden, now you're creating this whole, this matrix type of thing where, yes, I feel like I'm better than somebody, but then I can't take the risk to extend the gap at all, because I have to uphold my social standing, right? And so we create that ceiling all by ourselves. It's within us. If you have an enemy outside of you, it's because you have an enemy within you. And I think that's something to truly understand. And then going back to making it personal, you have to make your life personal. You have to, and that goes back to accountability, right? As well. Okay. If you're on this path that doesn't mean anything to you, that you don't have any competition in, you don't have any, you don't have an enemy within yourself telling you, A, you can't do this, or B, you can't, you're never going to get there, right? That's that fear talking. That's a healthy sort of enemy, right? That's a healthy sense of fear, because that's when you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's where we want to be. We want to live outside that zone. And that way we can get through those ceilings.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't put it anywhere better myself. I did have one question for you really quick. Going back a little bit. So you had mentioned that, that being Mr. Cool, Joe Schmo, whoever you are in public. Do you think that's getting worse nowadays?
Yeah, and I think sports is to blame.
You think sports is to blame?
No, I'm being honest with you. I mean, professional athletes, right? Kids turn on the TV, okay? Kids turn on the TV, and all they see is a bunch of guys being cool, right? Too cool for this, too cool for that. We've got all the the drip, the gear. We're walking around. We're just walking on the field. We don't care about it. We're throwing helmets. We're doing all kinds of things, and all they do, right? And the press conference, they come out and they've got they're just trying to be cool, right? Trying to create this persona rather than playing the game. And these kids, right? All they do is see that, and they think that's how it's supposed to be done, when they don't even know how to strap their helmet on the right way,
Yeah.
right? Or they don't even know, they don't they don't know how to press the B gap on outside zone or C gap on the outside zone, things of that nature. They don't know the basics of the game. They don't know which pivot foot to use in basketball, right?
Yeah.
They don't know, they don't know the basics, fundamentals of the game. But they want to come out here wearing chains and things of that nature. They want to put tape on the back of their back plate, right? And they want to have things that say say whatever on the back plate, and they want to come out with their belly showing during warm-ups and things of that nature. They can't even dress right, let alone play the game right, and we think that's cool, right? And so that's just, don't get me on that tangent, right? But that's one of the problems, is that Joe Cool is what they see, and our role models, right? They don't care about they don't really care about Mr. Whoever, who's their 10th grade social studies teacher, right? They'd rather be Antonio Brown, for goodness sakes, or whatever it may be. And so that's the problem, is that their role models, the people that they look up to, who by social media, by society, they're told to look up to, are constantly just trying to be cool. And so I think that's where you see the discrepancy. I've never seen a high school baseball game or a middle school baseball game with so many kids wearing, shin guards and elbow guards and chains, and they got their chains popped. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild to me that you would pop your chain as a 16-year-old boy on, playing second base. Like, that's just wild. That is insane to me, that you feel like you can dress that way. In that we actually allow it. When we're playing, if I had the top button unbuttoned, it might have been a problem. Like, it's just changed so rapidly in 4 or 5 years.
That's like the thing. I've seen a couple games where kids sitting in the dugout, hats backwards. That's a no-go. Kids tossing helmets down on the ground on the sidelines. That's a no-go. You don't do that.
Right.
It's stuff like that.
And so I think that they just have, it's not really even, it might not even be their fault, right? And we're not saying that we've been perfect. Trust me, I got in plenty of arguments and things of that nature. Or was a bad teammate at times, due to the competitive nature, right? And so, things get the best out of you, absolutely. But the way that you present yourself, and the way that you are actually, in that case, when you're too worried about how you dress or how you look rather than how you play, right? You're being an enemy to yourself in a negative way. You're not worried about the right things. You're not worried about the fundamentals. You're not worried about how to play hard with great effort and great attitude and be a great teammate. And that's the problem, is that we've got different values, and we have wrong values. We're teaching our kids to worry about looking good rather than playing good.
Yeah, that's a lot of it too. Is, now that you got me thinking about it, a lot of college football, pro football you see on TV, they're not showing you every play. They're not showing you, watch the lineman get out of his stance here, look at his first step. They're showing you, oh, check out this one-handed catch. Oh, look at this guy on the sidelines, look how cool his helmet looks. It's like that.
It's what we value, right? We value the big play. When the big play only happens twice a game, right? There's 150 football plays in the night. You might get two or three plays that are 30 plus yards. That's remarkable. If you can get 15 plus, 15 yard plus plays a night, that's a great offensive night. And so, we value those type of plays rather than if a kid can properly execute a kick block, right? That's much more important than the one-handed catch. I could care less about the one-handed catch. I want my left guard to be able to trap the 4, right, and things that need, and just, or the 3 tech, and do it on a 100% basis, right? You're not going to win everyone, but do it with proper technique and proper steps and not losing ground, et cetera, all the things that we talk about as coaches, and being able to value those things. I think that's where this talk actually goes. Truly, we can't be, our former selves have to be our enemy, right? The bad values, the bad habits, things of that nature. But we can't have our value system in such a wrong direction that we become our own enemy in a negative way, that we lead ourselves down the wrong path.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly where this goes. And I do want to say really quick, your enemy doesn't have to even be you at your lowest points. Your enemy can be you at your highest points, but you didn't feel like you reached your full potential at that point. And that is a huge thing because when you do that self reflection, you are going to see yourselves at highs and at lows, but you always want to be higher than your highest high or higher than your lowest low, no matter what in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's extremely important to understand as we start to wind off here is that that's the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The guy who thinks is good and needs to improve is right, and the guy who thinks he's already hit his ceiling, that he's as good as he's ever going to get, he's also correct. And so, working through that self-fulfilling prophecy and how we speak to ourselves and things of that nature, it's okay to have myself as my enemy even when I'm at my highest highs because there's still room to improve. And that's so important to understand.
That just goes right back to ego. That's it.
Yeah, it all ties into itself, right? And so, guys, we're just trying to, what we're doing here is trying to teach virtues and discipline of character, and we're working through this ourselves, right? Every day, this is a work in progress. And so, if you have any ideas about what we should talk about next, please feel free to reach out and send them to us on Spotify or even YouTube, and we'll tackle the topic. I think today, choosing your enemies wisely, understanding that one, that it can be from within, and two, that outside enemies are distractions. I think that understanding that will not only set you on the right path, but understand or focus your purpose in life. Chaser, do you have anything for us while we sign up?
I think that's all. I think we've wrapped it up. I mean, you are your own enemy, but in a good way. That's sum it all up, and to not be egotistical.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well,
And
this has
keep
been
it
this has been the Three Eyes Podcast. This is Off the Bench with Chase Kelly and Lance Lambert, and we will see you guys next week.